Hi, this is Mary from Cycle Maintenance Academy, and I'm very happy here to have Jonathan Harrison from the ACT. We're going to ask him a few questions. Hi there,
Hi,
Jonathan. We're going to talk a bit about the cycle scheme, cycle to work, I should say, cycle to work scheme.
Cycle to Work scheme.
Yeah. What's the current cycle to work scheme?
Um, Cycle to Work scheme, we estimate is around about £275 million per annum to the UK market, and that's possibly a conservative estimate. The way it works currently is an employee will receive a voucher from their employer, which will enable them to get the tax break via salary sacrifice on a new bicycle. It's currently operated by multiple cycle to work providers in the UK.
Okay, great. So we've heard a bit about the scheme there. And what's broken in this current scheme?
Um, well, the scheme does arguably bring new customers to cycling, so it's not necessarily broken. But our membership has asked for a call to reform cycle to work.
Mhm.
The positives are it encourages cycling participation. It arguably brings new cyclists that would never have thought about it before. However, many of our members feel areas could be improved. For example, accessibility for all, for people that are on lower incomes, to those that are self-employed.
Mm.
Retailers also feel they pay high fees to cycle to work providers. These fees range from as little as 3% up to 15% by some providers. Some of these schemes are capped, whilst others are not.
Mm.
So one of the largest cycle to work providers charges 15% fees. 15% fee to a retailer reduces the margins on a sale. The margins are reduced so much that it becomes unsustainable for a retailer to keep offering bicycles through the schemes. Back in December, one of the cycle to work providers wrote a letter to their retail network saying that retailers could no longer impose surcharges on the sale of a bicycle through the scheme. So let's step back a little bit. If a customer came in to a retail shop using a cycle to work voucher, often a retailer would apply a surcharge to protect their margin. So, for example, a 10% fee, a retailer may apply a 10% fee to a customer. A letter was written back in December to the retail network saying they could no longer do this. And the finger was pointed at the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, and said it was their legislation that said you can no longer do this. However, several organisations, including ourselves, have reached out to the FCA for clarity, and we have not received it. So since the call for reform, we've managed to have 650 businesses sign a pledge to say they support call for reform. We've attended 2 parliamentary meetings. We've had about 15 articles in the press, trade and consumer press, including Road CC, Cycling Weekly and GCM. We have met with the various cycle to work providers, or the majority of cycle to work providers, to talk about the reform and to try and find a way forwards. It's early days yet, but at least communication channels are open. The cycle to work providers are part of the Cycle to Work Alliance, and the Alliance is a lobbying group that goes to government to try and promote and protect the interests of cycle to work and the interests of those that are part of the Alliance. We've also met with those representatives to talk about reform. So where do we go from here? We, as the ACT, continue to liaise with our membership. We will continue to liaise with the Cycle to Work Alliance and the various cycle to work providers that make up the alliance. We will seek to reduce fees, as that's arguably the biggest thing in the eyes of our members. We will seek transparency and education from the providers. For example, they suggest the cost of acquiring customers for cycle to work is expensive, and that's rationale for the high fees.
Oh, right.
So part of the reason they charge so much is the cost of acquiring the customer. We've asked them to evidence this to tell our retail network what they're doing, to be proactive in the outreach they're doing. If they're attending events to encourage people to use cycle to work, then let's shout about it. Let's show people. So we continue to work with them on these fronts. We look for clear and transparent terms and conditions for retailers. So none, no unexpected surprises come round if an increase in fees, for example, or changes to the terms and conditions using the scheme.
Yeah.
Or there's a possibility we could look at a new scheme.
Right.
And, it's only ideas at this stage, but a new scheme could potentially be outside of the restraints of salary sacrifice.
Okay.
It could potentially be a government appointed provider that's separate to the current organisations. The government launched an initiative during COVID called the Fix Your Bike Voucher Scheme,
Yes.
which was a very successful, efficient way of encouraging people to take their bicycles out of their sheds and bring them into stores or workshops to get repaired fit for purpose. So we know the government can do that. So the proposal could look at implementing a scheme that looks like the Fix Your Bike Voucher Scheme. One partner that's appointed by government that will deliver a flexible approach that could be digital. So on an app on a phone.
Yeah.
It could potentially be flexible. So fundamentally, it would be a payment process underwritten by the employer. Once the employer has given the employee the voucher, which would probably be a digital voucher on an app, that app could be taken into any participating retailer and used instead of cycle to work vouchers.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my mind, this could open it up to those on a lower income and those who are self-employed, resulting in accessibility for all, not just those who are paid through payroll.
Yes. Yeah.
So if the scheme was to exist like this, I would envisage or hope that we could double the £275 million that I mentioned earlier. And from discussing it with a multitude of industry peers, that double is conservative. It could be even bigger.
Yeah.
So our intention is to grow the scheme even more. We could do this because we have a more engaged network. So more retailers who are really truly behind the scheme, bigger budgets for marketing. Any excessive funds that came as a result of this initiative could be reinvested back into cycling.
Right. Yeah.
The appointed delivery partner
Yeah.
could invest that money back into the cycling sector. For example, supplementing initiative to subsidise the purchase of e-bikes, or perhaps some national cycling marketing to encourage participation.
So really, it could be a whole scheme that sort of a snowball effect, isn't it? Can get all sorts of people back into it.
Yeah, I think if you open it up and make it available to those not just on payroll, you'll hopefully see an increase in cycling. You'll hopefully see an increase in different types of people taking up cycling.
Yeah.
And those people would therefore become customers for life in bike shops.
Exactly.
And that's what we're hoping for.
I think we've covered a lot of stuff there, which is fantastic. But we do have this rather magnificent award that you can all see. Can you give us a bit of a rundown on that now?
We were fortunate enough to win an award for Best Retailer Services with one of the trade mags, Bike Biz.
Yeah.
We were nominated, and obviously it's well regarded in the sector. It's the leading training and accreditation scheme for bicycle mechanics. It's now delivered in multiple countries around the world.
Yeah. From
Canada, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, and closer to home in the United Kingdom. And I'm happy to say that we're launching a new centre in Dublin in April.
Wow.
So yeah, Cytech, really, really pleased to win this award and shows that the industry highly values the scheme.
Maybe we'll be seeing you get another one for the new cycle scheme in the future.
I certainly hope so.
Lovely. Thanks very much, John.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.